This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Episode number... should have checked that before, shouldn't I? Anyway, apologies for that, and apologies for the delay in this podcast. This is probably the latest I've ever released a podcast, in the sense that it's always a Monday. This podcast, it will now be coming out on a Wednesday, which does make me feel a little bit not good about myself. I've had lots of things going on. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but lots of stuff going on, and I couldn't make my Monday pod, which hurt. I must admit, it cut deep. But anyway, I have a wonderful podcast for you today so I have been seeing a trend on social media recently of generally older person, so anyone sort of 40 above like me, and they say like, "Mum, what were you like in the 90s?" Maybe it's like a pop star who is now in like her late 50s, and it says, "What were you like in the 90s?" And then it shows all of these images of her, you know, singing and dancing. Or it might be a footballer who is now 60 odd. Notice that, 60 odd, meaning 60 something. And again, it would say, "Dad, what were you like in the 90s?" And then it zooms to all of these great things that they did in the 90s. And I thought, you know what? I mean, everyone knows I love the 90s. And I suddenly realised I made a podcast with Rob from English with Rob in, I believe it was July last year. And I think it was just before the summer, where I didn't have a podcast on for a couple of weeks. I think I went away for August and the podcast never came out. And I thought, let's get it out. So this is a podcast about the 90s. So we talk about a few things, just what it was like in England, in Britain, in the 90s. Okay, so I'm not going to say much more because the rest is in the podcast. So here it is. Happy listening. So hello, Rob, and welcome back to Rock and Roll English.
Hi, Martin. Good to be back.
Good to have you back. So people may remember Rob was on the podcast, I don't know when, a couple of years ago, maybe longer, I don't know. So I've just done Rob's podcast and we spoke about Oasis. And anyone that listens to this podcast knows, obviously, I'm an Oasis fan, but also the decade in which Oasis were at their peak is my favourite decade ever. So that's what we're going to talk about. But then also, the reason I thought we could do this is because I normally have friends from the podcast that I grew up with. But obviously... So Rob grew up in the UK, but somewhere else. So it was in Leicester you grew up. Is that right, Rob?
Leicester, yeah. Leicester, right in the middle of the country. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm from. Yeah. So my accent's a bit different. I would say podcast, not podcast. But I think that's the only big thing.
Well, I mean, Leicester really got put on the map, I suppose, when Leicester won the Premier League, didn't they? And
it's true.
A lot of people said Leicester. Also one of the most difficult places to pronounce, I think.
To read and then say, because it looks like Leicester.
Yeah.
And it's true, you know, because I live abroad and people often ask, where are you from? And I say England, and they say, what city? And I say Leicester. And before 2016? Yeah. Before 2016, people just went, oh. And now, if I say, especially to a man, Leicester, Leicester City. Yeah. And 2016, everybody knew about it, and now they still know, they remember. But yeah, it put us on the map.
Yeah,
that's one for the end of your podcast.
Definitely. That is one of the benefits of being a football fan, is someone tells you where they're from. So I was talking to someone from Romania once, and they said, "I'm from Cluj." I think I'm not sure. My pronunciation might not be very good, and I said, "Oh yeah, I know, football team, yeah, Cluj, yeah." Oh. Whilst otherwise I wouldn't have known that. So that is one of the benefits of football. But so yes, obviously Rob grew up in Leicester. I grew up in Essex. So I thought we could talk about these things to give a bit of cultural insight of what life was like in the 90s. See if things were the same in Leicester. So I basically got a list of like shops, some clothing items, and a couple of, let's say, leisure activities and TV programs. Okay, so I'm just going to throw it out there, and we're just going to talk about our memories of these places, or it may be you didn't like it and why you didn't like it, because some of these I didn't really like. Okay.
Oh, okay. This is good, because my worry was that you've invited me on your podcast to be an old miserable git saying, "Oh, wasn't the 90s great and things are so much worse now?" Okay, so some of them they're not all positive. Okay, good.
Well, they're just things of the 90s, and maybe like TV shows, but I didn't necessarily watch these. And in fact, before we get onto these, a question now, should have prepared you for this, but if you had to choose a decade, so for which you have been alive, so we're similar in age, I believe born in the 80s, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, born in the 80s. Yep. And obviously we're still alive, so we are now. It's difficult after the noughties, the decade names, the 2010s and
the 2010s,
and,
right?
and now are we in the 20s? Because if you still think of the 1920s, don't you?
But you have to say the 2020s, yeah, because you say, "Oh, what you're wearing, it's very 20s." Well, I think the question you're going to ask me, I think anybody's answer is the best decade is the decade where they came of age,
right?
Where they turned from a teen into an adult, because it's generally where you have the best time in your life, right?
Okay.
So somebody 10 years older than me, I might ask them, "Oh, when was the best decade?" They'd always go, "Oh, the 80s. Yeah, the 80s were great. The music," and I'd say, "No, that's not my opinion, because I'm really not a fan of 80s music."
Yeah.
On an 80s night, I think maybe I'd get up onto the dance floor a couple of times, but
I'm a fan of 80s music. Actually. I like sort of like the funky disco vibe. I'm a big fan of that. But just so I don't think you actually fully answered that question. I think you wanted to avoid saying it, but your favorite decade is the 90s.
It is the 90s, yeah, because I think everybody's.
I
said it sort of inadvertently. I'm generalizing, but I think that's the case.
Yeah. However, I do believe that, but obviously it's the same for decades before us, but it was kind of the last of that pre-internet age, though, wasn't it? So I think we were lucky in that, because for me, if I ask you, when did the internet come out? Because obviously I don't know the specific date, but for normal people, so when did you start using the internet?
The first time I ever used the internet, I can remember, it was like 93 or 94.
93, 94.
We went to
mental.
I know. Well, no, it's special. We went to this place called Futuroscope, which is in France.
Okay.
And I wonder what it is now, because it was like a theme park, but the theme was the future.
Okay.
And it was all like futuristic technologies and new things and new architecture, and there were no roads, because
flying
where
cars.
we're going, we don't need roads.
Oh, right.
No, there were roads, really. And one of the things you could do is sit down at a computer station and chat with somebody in a chat room.
Oh, wow.
It's just connected. Here's the future. We've got the computers here with the internet.
Yeah.
And it was futuristic, and you sit down, and the first thing you do as a teenage boy is write some abuse to somebody who's sitting on the other side of the world. And that's basically how it's carried on since then.
Yeah. I actually remember doing my work experience at a school. I was like 15 at the time, and we had these kids that were probably about 6 or 7, and they were on the computers, and we must have been showing them something where you can get the computer to actually repeat the word. And I just remember a 6-year-old boy writing the word shit, and I was supposed to be looking after these kids, but I just couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was absolutely hilarious.
What is it about the facelessness? You can't see someone. And as a kid, I was like, well, I'm going to write something rude. But adults still do that, and now it's called trolling.
Trolling, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't. We've got very sidetracked.
You know what? Let's go. I'm going to use your super football powers.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have got my dates wrong when I went on the internet. What year? This is football trivia question. What year did France win the World Cup?
1998.
Okay, then it was 98. Then it was a lot later than I said.
Okay, 93 was a bit early. Every football fan knows World Cup years. It's like that's just because
I knew you would. This is why I'm like, Martin can solve this right now, because I remember on that same trip, we were in France, and France won the World Cup while they were there. We're still talking about the 90s, so this is okay.
Oh, the 98 World Cup was one of the absolute highlights of that decade for me. I remember perfectly getting the bus home from school that day and sprinting from the bus stop so I could get home in time for Brazil v Scotland, which was the opening match. Like sprinting with my bag, I had like 20 books in my bag or whatever, and sprinting to get home for that. That was the highlight of the 90s.
I guess at that age, it's when football it's been important, but now, you're old enough to follow it and associate a lot more with it and get a lot more passion from it.
Yeah. So, okay, on to some of these. I'm going to throw some things out there. It's obviously not just a thing in the UK, but a big thing that I used to love in the 90s was blockbusters. So, any memories from blockbusters? Did you go there? What did you used to get from blockbusters? So, in fact, tell people what it is, so people may not know what it is.
Blockbusters,
in every country.
Can we say was a video rental shop?
Yeah.
So I never went to. I don't know if I ever went to Blockbusters. I went to this like small independent shop, which is also something you don't get
when you
anymore.
say small independent shop, was it one of these dodgy men that had a van and used to, because we had one of them. There was this dodgy guy that used to come around and rent videos and
probably
like computer games, like a Super Nintendo game. And I would imagine, I was too young, but I'd imagine he also had some adult entertainment films as well that he used to rent.
When you say bloke with a van,
yeah,
then
it's dodgy,
that's the first
isn't it?
association you get, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was a small family-run place, so there wasn't much branding around.
Sounds legit then.
He probably had a backroom section. Who knows? I don't know. I was a kid.
Top shelf, as
top
we
shelf.
used to say, which so in the newsagents, the top shelf would be the adult magazines, let's say. So the kids obviously couldn't reach them. So yeah, do they still have top shelf? In fact, when I go into a newsagent, I'll check. I don't really look.
Maybe
When I was a
don't
kid,
know who's still buying those magazines when the internet is at their fingertips.
People must still just like, the feeling of the paper touching your hands. So.
Maybe that, or maybe it's like, my internet's gone down. Quick, to the top shelf.
But yeah, so Blockbusters, did you ever go there? Did you get anything?
Not Blockbusters, but video rental. And I do have, again, I got another memory, and this is me giving away where my crap humor comes from, because the only thing that comes to my memory is a joke that my dad said. So I was with a girl, and we got this video, and it's called Unbreakable. Do you know that? Unbreakable with what's his name? Die Hard guy, Bruce Willis.
Okay.
And Samuel L. Jackson. It was not a very memorable film, but it's called Unbreakable. And my dad comes in, he's like, "Oh, what you got?" And he picks it up, this video box, and then he like he starts banging it on the table. It's like, wow, really? You can't break it. That's amazing.
Very nice. But although not a good idea if it was a rental, because if he had broken it, you would have been screwed.
These were videos from the 90s in a case. They were a brick. Basically.
Unbreakable, yeah. So obviously that's when phones came out, and there was the famous Nokia. So I saw something on social media recently, like the 3310, which probably maybe it was 2000. I would say maybe 2001, and it said, if you ever think what you do is pointless and basically no use to it, just think someone made a protective cover for a Nokia 3310, which what is the point in that? Because it was like absolutely unbreakable.
Yeah, I don't need it.
But on my main memory from Blockbusters, I did used to go there and rent like a Super Nintendo game or a film every now and again. But my main memory, we were in year 6, end of year 6, and it was my friend's birthday, and we went to Blockbusters, and this person, my friend's mum, let us hire Striptease with Demi Moore.
Ooh.
And yeah, she takes her clothes off, and it was, oh my God, for an 11-year-old boy, it was mega, believe me.
Yeah, I wonder what the certificate is on that.
Yeah, I don't know actually, because we couldn't believe it that she let us do that.
She's very liberal.
Yeah, it was a great time. But okay, what about this? This is a shop as well. So Woolworths, what was Woolworths? Because unfortunately, no longer exists.
Well, you say that. It exists here in Germany.
No way.
With the same branding, but it's a very different shop. Okay, so let's go back to the original. Woolworths. Well, they had everything, right? But what were they were most famous for was that they had pick and mix.
I was just about to say that.
I said that I enunciated that very well. Pick and mix, but it's pick and mix. Which is where you've got loads of glass, what would you call it? Cases, like a big dispenser, and it's full of loads of different sweets. And you go to one little door and you take your cola bottles. You go to the next door, you take your.
Just thinking, I used to do that quite a lot. Just think of the absolute rubbish that I was eating. Did you do this pick and mix a lot?
Yeah. Every time we went to the supermarket with my mum, we were allowed like a certain amount of pick and mix sweets. I think that was just to motivate us to go to the supermarket with her because it was a pretty boring thing otherwise. But I never ever buy it at the cinema because
rip off.
I don't know what they do to it. It's. I mean, it tastes fine, but it's like heavier than gold when you get on the scales. And they charge you like so expensive to buy pick and mix at the cinema. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I went to the cinema recently actually, and as you can imagine, everything's gone through the roof, but pick and mix especially. But what the trick was, when I got a bit older, that annoying age of like 13, I used to go maybe to Woolworths or the cinema with my friends, and what the classic thing was to put some in and then weigh it, get the thing for the price,
the sticker on,
and then put some more in, and then put some more in. Yeah,
that's why they closed down.
Yeah,
people like you put them right out of business.
I hope the police are not listening to this. But yeah, and Woolworths is where you could get like CDs in there as well. There was all things. But tell me about books, Woolworths in Germany. I can't believe Woolworths.
So Woolworths in Germany is like a discount shop. It's like Poundland.
Okay.
Well,
right.
No, because in Poundland everything costs £1, right? But it's like very, very cheap stuff. I bought a stapler from there for my job, and it lasted about 3 clicks because it's such cheap rubbish.
Right.
But it's where you go if you want something. It doesn't matter if it breaks. Like you want a notepad, or some. I went there most recently. I bought some bubbles. Like the bubble liquid that you use to refill your bubble machine.
I would imagine for your
children, by the way. It's not,
So you just love bubbles. Yeah.
I just need bubbles in my life every day. Give me bubbles.
Okay, so at this point, I think we had some technical difficulties because I kind of lost a bit of the conversation, but we pick up the conversation again talking about video games, okay, computer games, as they are more known as in the UK. But when we talk about this, I hope you'll immediately recognise the game we are talking about. Now, I would still argue with anyone that Tetris is the greatest game ever made.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. You give me Tetris, you'd entertain me for hours, even now.
Tetris and a Mario. But yeah, so I would go around to friends' houses and I'd be like, let's play Street Fighter, let's play these games, because I was dying for it, I was really aching to have a controller in my hand. But for those kids, they'd be like you, they'd been playing it all day, and then a friend comes round. They don't want to play on the console anymore. They want to go and do something else.
So they want to go outside, but you don't want to go outside.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, I want to play on your. In fact, why don't you go away? Just leave me here, and I'll play
in your house.
In your house, and I'll play on your Sega Mega Drive.
Right. Okay. So here's another TV program though. This was after school TV program. Again, I wasn't a massive fan of this, but just maybe to tell people what it was. Blue Peter. Did you watch this?
I also wasn't a massive fan.
For me, it was just a boring, like...
I think it was a kid's show for adults. I think this is what adults... Not for adults to watch, but this is what adults wanted kids to watch.
Yeah.
So I would call it like a magazine show where there's some hosts and they have guests on and talk about interesting things, or they go and visit places and talk about that. And it was to try and get kids interested in... current events,
like
a
educational,
little bit,
wasn't
new
it?
science things, and there was
You've been at school all day. The last thing you want is like watching TV about a science experiment, isn't it?
Yeah. So we were always after school there was on BBC One there was kids shows, and on ITV there were kids shows. So those are 2 TV stations, and we get home. Was it the same for you? You just flick forward between, if you didn't like whatever was on, you'd look to see what was on ITV. And then you go back to the BBC, and then you go back to ITV.
Yeah.
And when it was Blue Peter, I was always on ITV watching whatever they had on.
But that was another great thing of the 90s, is that everyone, well, the majority of people only had like 4 channels. I remember when Channel 5 came out, which was probably about 98-ish. And so everyone used to watch the same things and talk about the same things, which...
Yeah, really, there was like a real sense of community. You know, we get to school the next day and then we'd be recreating the sketches from the Fast show.
Yeah.
Or...
but I mentioned this in a Facebook Live I did on our family recently of the Brit Awards. Like that was an event. Like I remember like Jerry Halliwell coming out in that Great Britain dress, the Union Jack. And... yeah, coming to school the next day, and it was like, whoa, did you see that? Like, I think I was about 13 at the time, and yeah, as I mentioned, watching that with your mum and dad, and like, I mean, you can see her underwear quite clearly in the whole time. So I actually rewatched this video, and the cameraman goes a lot to her underwear, and then you're just kind of watching that, just like,
was it better than striptease?
Not as good, but striptease. Luckily, no adults were around when we watched that. And we were absolutely mesmerized, which that was a big one. Okay, so to finish, let me see on my list what we should talk about. Okay, you know what? Because again, I think lots of countries don't have this. This is not necessarily a 90s thing, but packed lunch. Because obviously in school in the UK, we stay till like 3:30, so we generally have lunch at school. Whilst like I know in other countries, certainly in Italy, people go home to have lunch. So when I think of packed lunch, I just think of some of the disasters I used to see. The worst one I remember, and I saw this a few times, was kids that had a sandwich, so 2 pieces of bread and a tomato ketchup sandwich, and inside the bread was just tomato ketchup.
Wow, that's some lazy parents.
And I just, even then, I mean, I actually don't eat ketchup anymore, but I loved it as a kid. And even then, though, even though I loved ketchup, I just thought that is absolutely revolting.
Yeah, it'd be like just having ketchup in your mouth, because bread doesn't really taste of anything. Exactly. It's just have a mouth of ketchup.
Yeah, but
it's the savory equivalent of when people get that squirty cream and put it in your mouth.
I must admit I did that a few times.
But that's 90s. Okay, because that tastes good. But ketchup like that, no.
Yeah. So were you a packed lunch guy? School dinners?
School dinners.
Okay.
Yeah. And I used to pretty much have the same thing every day: a sausage roll and some baked beans most days. Because it was there was the same. You could choose what you wanted at the canteen, but because you're a child, you just choose what.
Of course,
not what your body needs, but what your head says. Yeah, give me that.
Yeah, and that, from what I understand, is the same now. From my daughter's going to be starting school soon, and I looked at the menu, and it's like, they have like some healthy things, but then they have like ice buns and like chocolate cake, and you think, well, she's 4 years old. What did you expect her to? What do you expect her to do?
Well, when we were that age, we didn't get to choose. It was just the lunch. But at secondary school, so from the age of like 12 or something, it was a free for all.
Yeah,
get what you want.
But yeah, the school dinners. Yeah, I used to switch between actually. But yeah, when I did have the school dinners, like you say, such a British thing, that isn't it, to have a sausage roll and some baked beans. Like it just couldn't be more
some soggy chips.
Yeah, and just more disgusting as well, really. So when I first moved abroad and everyone said, "Oh, like English food's terrible," I was like, "No, it's not. Like, what are you talking about?" But now, having lived in a country where certainly food is a huge part of Italy, the culture, and then you kind of realize, okay. So when I was eating, because I had that as well a few times, sausage roll and baked beans for lunch. You do kind of think not the best.
Mm-mm. And there's always a salad there, but no kid's taking a salad. Come on.
Exactly. No one's going to be doing that. But anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Rob, about life in the 90s.
Reminiscing.
Yeah, exactly. And we hope to see you soon.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So let's have a look at some of the vocab. And I've noticed my mic is doing the thing where it makes me sound like I have inhaled some helium. and I'm talking really fast. I actually don't know why it does this. It sometimes does. It is actually quite funny, so let's just go with it. I had already recorded this, so here is the thing I had recorded. Okay, so there we have it, our conversation about the 90s. So when you see one of those things, what was it like in the 90s? This is the podcast version of it, okay? So quick look at some of the vocab. So Rob mentioned that Leicester winning the Premier League in 2016 put them on the map. Okay, so before, let's say maybe to people abroad it wasn't such a significant place, but now they know where it is. It put Leicester on the mat. We also spoke about the 90s, which was the decade in we come of age, which means the time you become an adult, I suppose, where you become what you reach that mature stage in life, let's say. Then we had the term top shelf. Okay, now I think it's quite clear what that is. There were magazines on the top shelf. So you normally have 3 shelves. The bottom shelf, like on the floor almost, the middle shelf, kind of eye height, and then the top shelf, which is where the adult magazines were, let's say. We spoke about the pick and mix at the cinema being a rip-off, meaning costing a lot of money, saying the prices have gone through the roof, so they have increased extortionately. And right at the end, Rob mentioned that when he was in secondary school and could eat whatever he wanted, it was a free-for-all. So a free-for-all means a very disorganized situation where everyone just basically does whatever the hell they want and eats sausage rolls and baked beans every day. So that's it for the podcast this week. I will see you very soon, but in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.